Здравейте, Лиза Gerrard. Добре дошла отново в България. Кое е това, което ни събира днес?
I'm doing the Gorecki concert, of course, with Jordan, and I'm also going to do some concerts with the voix.
Защо точно музикалното послание на Горецки избрахте с маестро Камджалов? Сякаш долавям една нужна сериозност, която искате да излъчите към публиката.
Well, I believe I'm very moved by the music, of course. It's an important piece descriptively, and I feel that I'm qualified to sing the songs of sorrows, as I've had my heart broken so many times. I feel that I'm completely a good apprentice to do this work. It's also important for me to engage in the composition of the other. That not all the time I like to collaborate. And I know in this instance, it's not a living collaboration, but I feel in some way that I can communicate something from my heart and in some way do an interpretation of something that I feel would be right for Gorecki without doing exactly the same thing.
Животът е много ценен и кратък, за да го пропилеем в щастие, наслади и развлечения. Тази сериозност, за която споменах, това откъсване от илюзиите ли е сериозността, към която искате да насочите вниманието? Сериозността, която е отговорност?
Well, I think that's very subjective to the individual. And I don't see any problem with joy or happiness. I think it's integral and a great blessing and shouldn't be part of an oversight. It's something that we should engage in when it comes. I don't think it's necessary to be so serious about things. I believe that, there are spiritual pathways that we take where it's an act of conscience. It doesn't necessarily have to be serious and heavy, just something that a part of the being is able to grow in a positive way, in a way that's based on enlightenment and wisdom, as opposed to something serious and heavy and boring, So I certainly don't feel that anything in my life, I know it's a bit of an irony because a lot of people meet me and say, you're quite a happy person for such sorrowful singing, but I don't see something that is emotional as being sad. I think that it's a way of staying awake.
Да, за хората, които са по-напреднали в духовното развитие, това не е тъжна, вдъхновяваща музика. И в допълнение да ви попитам, музиката, която създавате още от времето на Dead Can Dance, тя внася едно сериозно чувство на откъсване от привидната реалност тук на земята. Вашата музика кара хората да се замислят. Откъде идват и какви са източниците на вашите послания?
It's an interesting question because it's quite difficult to answer completely, but Dead Can Dance was very much a collaboration of Brendan and I. And Brendan is quite literary, and usually if we are making an album or a piece of music together, it's built upon a concept. There's a broader concept that can sometimes come afterwards, but when we're creating the piece of music, we're constantly finding the way, the pathway through the music, through the sounds, to bring us into the landscape or the disposition or the reality or the personification of that work, the poetry of that work, the mythological aspect of the work. So we explore that, and it's very much, I think in a way, it's quite theatrical in a way. I don't think that the music is spiritual, but I think things can wake up a spiritual essence within a person, that you can be provoked to look inside yourself and examine yourself internally And I think the music is capable of doing that. It's interesting because I was just in another room and I was almost crying. I became very emotional because I saw pictures of my daughter and also Brendan and I when we were very, very young on the screen in the back. And, you know, there's a definite emotional link between Brendan and I because of the history that we've had together and the many layers and levels of emotions that we've explored through the work.
Моля да отключите поне част от тайната. Откъде донесохте текстовете и тази особена вибрация на песни като Sanvean, Емелея? Какъв е този странен език? Това са кодове, нали?
Well, each piece of music has a language of its own. It unlocks a different layer of music. But you understand that I come from a very abstract world of singing because I grew up in an immigrant area. So, and also there was a lot of Chanot singing in the home, which was in Gaelic. So the concept of singing in English wasn't my first language to sing in. It was to experience and repeat or revisit an abstract emotion that came to me through languages that I didn't understand.
В тези текстове възможно ли е това слово да слиза директно от други измерения? Някои коментари посочват, че това е език от Сириус.
I don't know. I have the Holy Spirit. I pray in tongues. And I know that that is a very different experience to my singing. The singing isn't a spiritual singing, it is a soulful singing. And the two things are different. If I sing, it comes directly from me. If I pray, I don't know where that comes from. It doesn't come, I believe that comes from the Spirit. It doesn't come from my emotional center. You understand? So it's a very different thing. So I believe that the evolution of the singing that I do has very much been the quickness between the heart and the gate of the mouth. You know, the automatic. It's an automatic singing. And if I'm working with singers, if I'm working with people, I always want them to explore just without words, just explore without words. Sometimes it takes time for people to feel relaxed in that, and sometimes they cry because and I think that sometimes people cry when I sing because it unlocks something cathartic, because it is an emotional journey. It is purely emotion. You know, it's nothing intellectual about my singing. You understand?
Може би защото тази музика вие сваляте директно от духа.
I believe that music has a profound influence on the human being and that it opens up our senses. It creates a way of us to remain, in a way, sane because it keeps us fragile and it takes away the thick skin that covers us of ignorance so that when the truth comes, that we can still resonate with the truth, that we are not so ignorant and so blind that the heart can't be touched by spirit.
Какво е тишината за вас?
A silence is my friend, and I think often with the work of music, really all we do is point towards the silence that exists just at the moment when the music finishes. There's that profound gap of silence that it's arresting and it's almost it's liberating in a sense because it's a silence where we have no thoughts. You know, it takes people years and years of meditation to come to an area where they have no thoughts. You know, I don't believe that it ever really exists because I haven't experienced it. Other people tell me it can happen, that you can be completely empty and void of thoughts. But I always feel that sometimes with music, that the most important moment are the gaps between the pieces of silence. that absolute void of arrested quiet.
И ето защо тишината трябва да бъде чута.
Correct.
Смятате ли, че след победата над изкушенията, единственият път към свободата, към истинската любов и единството минава през саможертвата?
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that it comes through self-sacrifice. I don't believe anyone ever really overcomes their temptations. I mean, you have to be, I don't even know if a Buddhist monk can overcome some kind of temptation, you know. I mean, there's always the love of chocolate or, you know, something that you may want to deny yourself of. Why would you bother? You know, I don't think self-sacrifice, I think that, let me explain it like this. Let me answer like this because I can keep it shorter. I believe that self and spirit are two completely different things. And I believe that the self has to learn to be obedient and it must be disciplined because it's a creature and it's constantly wanting and needing. And the spirit is in adversity to this. And for the spirit to grow stronger, that conversation with self is not about self-sacrificing, it's about harnessing and making self obedient to spirit. You understand? Do you understand? I know it's a little bit tricky, but because for me the creature is self. It's the thing that rots in the ground. It's the thing that I'm not even sure when we die if we have memory. So if we don't evolve spiritually, if we don't receive the Holy Spirit in my understanding, then we deny ourselves the ability to develop in a spiritual way. And self will do everything it can to deny you of that spiritual experience. So it must be harnessed and it must be kept obedient. That's a very difficult task, something that I struggle with all the time.
И един последен въпрос. Навярно предходният въпрос бе от тези въпроси, които нямат отговор, но все пак една от най-известните ви песни носи името Саможертва. Какво е посланието ви в нея?
Sacrifice is, well, I don't want it to sound religious because I don't like religion at all. I'm terrified of religion. But it's really about Jesus, and I'm not saying Jesus has anything to do with religion, don't get me wrong, but it's really about the sacrifice that was made for us so that we could have another dimension. That's what the piece is about for me. The singing is about that. It's a song of thanks, a song of loss, a song of tragedy, and a song of spiritual hope.
Ние всички получаваме тази надежда от вашите песни. Благодаря ви много.
Thank you.